this evening is Miesha Johnston. And in 1991, Miesha Johnston founded the Star Family Contactee. Miesha was a director of U.F.O.C.C.I, UFO Contact Center International, and Celestial Contacts of Nevada through 1998. She was a working group member of Stephen Greer's C.S.E.T.I in Las Vegas in 1997. She was coordinator of the Art Bell Chat Club San Diego chapter 1998 through 2001. She has been interviewed on many radio shows, including Art Bell's Dreamland, and has spoken at UFO conventions throughout California, Colorado, and Nevada. She is a second generational experiencer, beginning at age 3. She has had numerous contacts and abductions and has been involved with at least 5 different alien types: greys, insectoids, mammalians, reptilians, and human-looking groups. She has had many MILAB experiences and has been in the underground bases, which includes a Black Ops branch of our government and some Grey and Reptilian factions. She was born and raised in an MKULTRA family, which actually started her trauma-based training for Project Monarch and put her into service at age 9. And Misha has had 2 missing periods of time in her life, extending to 8 months each time, during which time she has little or no memory of what happened, including a wedding and husband she has no memory of at all. Her book will be published in 2017. We're all excited to take a good look and read at that. Miesha Johnston is a certified hypnotherapist, and she specializes in trauma release hypnosis and regressions. She facilitates 12 experiencer support groups each month. 2 are in her private residence in Las Vegas, and the others are 3 times a week on a private internet live chat room, zoomchat.com. And you can see these events on her Facebook page, and that's Sunday at 11:30 to 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Starseed Awakenings ET Contactee and Experiencer Group, and every Thursday at 2 p.m. to well, it says a.m. on here, to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, MKULTRA DID, which is MILAB Monarch Super Soldier Targeted Individuals and Ritual Abuse Support Group. She has another contact channeling and automatic writing group on Saturdays, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. She's very busy. And she has a weekly radio show every Saturday on Starseed Awakening at KCRDigitalRadioNetwork.com. I encourage everybody to tune into that. She's a cast member of the iVolve TV Transcending Reality Show. And she has so many websites here. Let's see, we have her website is www.starseedawakening.org. That's the best way to contact her, and we'll get into extra information on that as well. So please welcome Misha to the show this evening. Good evening, Misha.
Oh, good evening. Oh, my goodness, that was a lot to have to read.
Oh, that was fine. I was like trying to spit everything out with the intro itself, but no, it was fine. Beautiful introduction for you anyway. And you do so much.
I'm kind of busy.
You are.
Yes. And I do apologize today. I've been fighting off a crazy cold, and so I may lose my voice a bit. So if I do, I'll just throw it back at you.
Oh, that's okay. Just get some water, just if you need a break or something.
Yeah.
You know how that
yeah.
rolls.
I've got water here.
I think your voice sounds fine for now. We'll just keep running good energy your way, so you'll be fine. Yeah. So tell everybody what you've been working on as of recent. I know you just finished your book.
I did finish my book, and it's I had some things that I needed to change, and so it's really going to be out on Amazon.com tomorrow or the next day, something like that. And it's called Covert Abduction, Military Harassment, Surveillance, Interrogation, and Mind Control, an Autobiography of a Survivor. This is volume 1 of 4, possibly 5 volumes. And it's kind of a little bit of an undertaking for me because it requires a lot of emotions going through and the memories and everything, because I was, raised in an MKUltra family, and I did find out actually just recently from some family members that it's a 3rd generational MKUltra family.
Wow.
Instead of the 2nd generation, as I thought it was just my father, but it's also started with his mother and they were, there's different groups that are really some good positive groups, right? But there are sects of these groups that are not quite so positive. Might be dealing in the occults or the black magic arts and things like that. Well, unfortunately, my father, grandmother and father were in one of those such kinds of secret organizations. And I'm not saying that all Rosicrucians, Masons are that way, but the ones that my family was involved with were not quite of most positive nature. Plus, he was, mind controlled. So when you were mind controlled, they start off very young. And I know from his stories that he used to tell about his horrible life that it started very young for him as well. You programmed very young and start with getting altars. So I looked at the things that my father did, who was my handler and who did the trauma-based mind control effects and things on me. And I believe he was mind controlled, and it wasn't my father that was doing it. It was another part of my father that
Right.
I didn't know. And in fact, all of us kids always felt that my father was schizo anyway.
Mhm.
So that explains it, you know.
Right.
And
Well, I think the alter has a lot to do with the handlers and the programmers. If you ask me, I think that when they create the split and they create the personality of an alter, it's a reflection of the handler that created them. What do you think?
that's a very good point. Oh, yeah, that's a very good point. Well, that's a real good point because one of my altars that was created was m- uh, the name of it is the same name of this missing marriage that I had no memory of,
Uh huh.
and I actually did have it, and I was gone for 8 months after the wedding day. My family came to the wedding and said that I acted very odd and that I wasn't myself, and they thought, well, she must be under drugs or something like that, you know. So they didn't really investigate it. And of course, maybe my father, as a mind control himself, that part of it was just turned off. You know, he did, however, say they. My mother said that they hated my husband to be and thought he was a horrible person. He was a Navy Marine corpsman, so he had all the ability to do drugs or whatever else he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that just happened to me, you know, from January 1968, and then in 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 August of 1968, I woke up. But it
Wow.
started in January, when I met him, and he came and he said, "Well, hey, you know, there's going to be a a way to make money." And he came to a college and was talking to different people, and he said, "You can make money by just being in this dream program, this sleep program, and all you have to do is just dream, and we just map your dreams, and just we watch you while you dream."
Mm-hmm.
Thought, well, what could be easier to make money, right? So last thing I remember is on that January, I think about the 4th or something like that of January, walking into that building, and that was the last thing I remembered until 8 months later, on a bus coming
Wow.
back from Seattle.
That's
So
amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
that's creepy too. When you think about all the time that was lost in the illusion of what was happening to you, where you were, or what altar was kicking in, right?
yes, yes, I have since then met some of the altars and integrated them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one which was very interesting during a regression, the woman was asking me, "Why don't you remember your wedding? This is a very important thing. You must remember. You walked down the aisle, you had a wedding dress. Why don't you remember?" And at that moment, I looked and I could, what I was seeing was me, but it wasn't me standing in front of a mirror, and then the other part of me screaming, you know, I want, no, no, stop, no, don't, it can't
Mm-hmm.
happen. And then a voice came through and said, "Well, she's asleep like she's supposed to be. It wasn't her wedding; it was my wedding."
Wow.
So, so the altar came through and explained everything to me. So, of course, when I listened, of course, the altar was coming through my mouth so that everybody understands. I don't want to make it confusing here, but so during the regression, the altar came through and explained it all and said that she's asleep like she's supposed to be, and along with that, imagery came in that she was the one that did the sex slavery, and she was the one that took care of a lot of the ritual trauma um, attacks and things like that, and that was her job. In fact, she said at the time that if it wasn't for me, she'd be dead because I've been taking care of her for a long time. And the therapist asked, "How long have you? When is your birthday?" And her birthday was at my 3 year at me at 3 years old. That was her birthday. Her
Wow.
birthday. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So um, these altars can happen from people, and a lot of people you don't even have any idea you have an altar. But if you have some missing periods of time, whether they're a couple of weeks or 8 months like mine, or you take your childhood and you can't remember your childhood, or you have areas of your time in your life and you can't remember, and you have some of the other symptoms of being a MK Ultra or Monarch or whatever, such as I was, then you should really take a look at it, because one of the big anomalies is that you have missing time, and
Correct.
and you can't remember your life and parts of it, and the important parts.
Mhm.
Everyone should be able to remember their children's birth, their children's birthdays, or your wedding day, these things, and those are not in my mind.
Right.
I don't remember my children's births even,
Right.
because
Yeah.
even though the 8 month periods were 8 months each time, there were still years and years and years and years and years of my life that they just have took away from me.
Yeah, and you can't get those back. And, another thing that comes to mind also, there's a lot of misdiagnosing when it comes to people who have the illusion of schizophrenic behavior, when in fact they're
Hmm.
not schizophrenic at all. They're actually, and I'm not saying all of them are, clear, but I will
Right.
say that there is a great majority of people out there that are being heterodyned by EEG, heterodyning and cloning, which is a mixing of the signals, which overlays a signal onto the healthy brainwave activity. And this is all done to create alters and a schism to some degree to create MK Ultra or Manchurian candidates. So that's something I'm sure you're familiar with. But all of this stuff ties in. And the one thing that I like about what you're doing and what I've been doing and what a lot of others have been doing in this area is bringing it to light, because this is ridiculous. How many people
Hmm.
have been mind controlled over the years?
Oh, I know. It's terrible.
Hmm.
The numbers people can't imagine. I mean, some of the people have talked about how many people were in Montauk.
Hmm.
Well, and there were thousands and thousands. Well, that's just one of the projects.
Hmm. Right.
There's Monarch, there's Artichoke, there's um, Stargate, there's all these other. So if you've got several thousand people just in the Montauk project, can you imagine how many people are out there walking around that have been damaged by them? That
Right.
have
That's what's
it's
concerning. Yeah.
it's it's irreversible damage it's done to people, and it's just wrong. It's so
Hmm.
wrong, and it's about time that the the numbers that came out, and I see it more and more, because I facilitate the MK Ultra group,
Hmm.
and there's targeted in there, and people that are targeted. There's people at MK Ultra. There's people who are super soldiers, the secret space program, ritual abuse, and they all seem to come and go in together, connecting in some way or other, not with every single person, but in the majority. And it
Hmm.
is, it is really, there's just got to be something done about all these people who have their lives changed, and not for the good. Some
No.
people are still in such dire straits that are being tortured by this the heterodyning. I mean, these. I'm I'm the first generation, so mine is all the antiquity of the Monarch program and all of that.
Hmm.
But now with the heterodyning that you talked about just a minute ago, and
Hmm.
all the other things that they can do, the psychotronic, all of these things they can do now, it's horrible. It's
Right.
horrible,
Well, it's done
and
remote. Yeah, all they have to do
yeah,
is literally triangulate a target and pull them in. That's what they did with me in 2004 with the artificial telepathy project. And I can tell you, one thing that you mentioned also with the targeted individuals, that's I've been looking a lot into that. And so far as the way they're being programmed, they are literally targeting these people first of all to see how much they can take, but also I
right,
believe they're trying to create alters, because what happens is when these people get targeted to such a level of pain and trauma, they go into an alter personality just to deal with it. So once again, this is a war crime, in case anybody wants to know.
hmm
And covert intelligence agencies are behind this. A lot of NSA, a lot of split CIA, a lot of
hmm
these guys who you think are your friends in these covert intelligence operations are not your friends. And I
no,
can tell you, and I get very livid about it because I know where I've been and I know where you've been, Misha, and we're just the tip of the iceberg on many, many projects. And thank
right.
goodness we still are able to communicate. When I look at you, I mean, you've been around for a while here, but you were one of the original MK Ultras, which was a lot more abusive, if you ask me. But I mean, in a different way, because you're physically being handled, you're being pulled into places, you're physically being taken, right?
Right, right. Everything I did was of a physical nature. All of the trauma that they perpetrated would be hypnosis and a shock treatment and the SRA, sexual rapes and things like that are all part of splitting somebody's personality, and they
Right.
do it from a very, very young age. So my memories of my very young 3-4 year old have a lot of that in it. So they do it very early. So in that generational, yes, the first generation, maybe even part of the second generation, had more of the on hands physical things, which it's very severe, but there's an end to it. You
Right.
know,
But then you have a lot
you
of things you
get
have to
too
filter out.
old, and then they're not interested in it.
Right. You're not an
You're
asset
past
anymore.
your prime. You're not an asset anymore. So, but with what they're doing with people now with this generation, they access them and do whatever they want. They'll and astrally access them and take them and use them, and it's just horrible. And they
Disgusting.
definitely can astrally take somebody and cause them to do, be their super soldier or their spy or whatever they want.
Oh, yeah, that's what they did to me in 2004. Literally, I mean, they triangulate the target. They can map your electromagnetic field and neural circuitry. They triangulate you, then they pull you into the program with artificial intelligence with a live handler real time. That's what they did with me anyway. So I can tell you, yeah, that's exactly what they do, but it's a remote brain hack. And they know what they're doing. And that is a violation physically, mentally, spiritually, sexually, because they do that. They did that with me too. They were really getting into it. I mean, these
Mm,
are sick people. And
yeah,
yet they're still wandering around. As a matter of fact, the people that had pulled me into their covert program are going to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. How
which
about that?
is
Wow,
a
reward the
travesty.
perpetrators.
Oh
Wow.
my gosh,
Yeah, isn't that special? Is that,
that's a
yeah,
travesty.
it just makes me livid when I think about it. And to all you libtards out there who support the band Rush, don't even listen to my show. Okay, it's over your heads. It really
Yeah,
pisses me off, Misha, because
yeah.
these guys are literally the perpetrators who pulled me into that project, took my life away for 13 years, 24/7, and left me with a lot of anomalous signals. And I tell you what, I get very angry when I look and see how many lives have been destroyed at the hands of people either wanting to entertain themselves, pull people into a program for their own trainment or recruitment or whatever it was. And when you look back and you see where you were pulled in, it sounds like they were trying to use you more for Monarch.
Monarch, also a courier. I was used as courier. I was used as a messenger a lot. And one of the things when, I've uncovered several of the messaging things. In fact, a couple of them. Now they don't mean anything now, but one particular one that actually is in my book that I was just I I was walked up to a door, knocked on the door, gave a guy a message, again handed him a package, and that wasn't enough though because most of them are all involved, so they have to get their jollies off, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, so then he pull you in and torture you and do some more horrible things to you to just drive the whole point in. And so it came to a point that uh, pleasure was pain
Hmm.
and pain was pleasure,
Right.
and no better. It's like a not too long ago, and it's like the pedophilia thing, the Pizzagate, and all of that.
Mhm.
I was listening to Ashton Kirshner, whatever his name is,
Christian.
Ashton,
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
the
Yeah.
artist. Okay,
Okay.
the actor, and he was talking about his organization, how they actually talked to this young boy that was being raped, and he actually, or child, I don't know if it was a boy or a girl, but that they actually thought in their mind, because they'd been programmed so much, that it was play,
Yeah.
that
I
it
get
was
it.
play. Yeah. So that's that whole thing, pleasure versus pain, pain versus pleasure.
Hmm.
And it's horrible. And they program children from a very young age. And so they're doing that right now. I mean, that's like the same thing that they did back to us. So
Hmm.
it's like these monsters have reverted back to, or they've continued on, let's
Right.
say. They've
Yeah.
probably continued on.
Yeah. As I spit this out, the new kid on the block is literally the covert programming with the brain hacks, which is satellite driven and signals. With
Mm.
literally, they don't have to be in the room physically. They can induct a target remotely, which is very concerning because when you can remotely induct a child
Mhm.
and pull them in from their bedroom. And some people might think it's a MILAB, or they might think it's an extraterrestrial contact, when in fact it's a dirty old man behind a control room somewhere pulling this person in, or this child into a project, raping them, molesting them, abusing them, hacking them, programming them, and the mother and the father will think the kid's schizophrenic or crazy or possessed.
Right.
I mean, this is the kind of
Exactly.
beast we're dealing with, folks. If you don't believe me, it's tactical hardware. It's out there. It's patented. You can research it. If you really roll up your sleeves, you'll find it.
Mhm. It is. It's absolutely real.
Yeah. And nobody talks about it except for you, myself, and a small percentage of other people in alternative media.
Mhm.
So I applaud you
Uh,
for that, Misha, and I also applaud you for going out and writing this book. Now, originally, when you started to write this book, let's backtrack a little bit. Something happened that actually they threatened you, right, and actually made you kind of stop writing. Is that correct?
yeah, well, that happened when I first started writing the book. I was working with actually Melinda Leslie, and we were researching, and I was bringing the MKUltra part into it. We were talking about MILAB, and it seemed like there wasn't a whole lot of thing going on. But then I started bringing that connection into it, and little by little, more and more things happened, and till they finally convinced me because of a lot of things that had happened to Melinda as well, but a lot to myself and threats to my family. Then and they finally, they abducted an, out of my house and took us to an underground base, and this was all military. There wasn't any aliens to begin with, anyway. They took us in the middle of the night, and I wake up. Next thing I think see I'm sitting in front of this lieutenant colonel. I know it was a lieutenant colonel. That seems to be a very important part. I want people to pay attention to their experiences. They're going to see a lot of lieutenant colonels and colonels. I don't know why, but I think it's they have the knowing. They're in the know, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why we see that grade of a officer. Anyway, and so he said, "This is it. You're done. This is your last chance." But I already been had several other warnings, but this was your last chance. And if you don't stop writing the book, you're going to stop writing the book. You're going to stop going on conventions and speaking. You're going to stop going on radio. That's it. You're done. And to bring the point home, how serious we are. Um, I want you to meet somebody. And he walked out. And the next thing I see is this large reptilian. This one has a tail. I hadn't seen any with a tail before. I'd seen some other ones in the underground bases that were reptilian.
Mm-hmm.
They were darker green. This one had a different kind of color to it. Anyway, it walked over to me, uh, it bent down, looked in my eyes, and proceeded to put some terrifying experience that was going to happen to my family if I didn't stop. So uh, I didn't stop, actually. We went ahead and continued on, even after being brought back to, we were brought back to the house. And the next morning, we didn't really remember anything as usual. You have that missing time, you don't know. And then we started feeling something was weird. And I had a regression, and she had a regression in the town she lived in when she got home. And we found out what had happened. So after that, we decided, the hell with this. Pardon my language, but
Mm-hmm.
we're not quitting. So we continued, and we went on to the conference and spoke. Um, and we were continuing on the book, and then uh, some more subsequent things happened. I had a crazy. Talk about a schizophrenic. This guy was like crazy, a killer after me. And then I had two automobile accidents, and then it became a third automobile accident, and I had and then I had a warning one more time in a restaurant with somebody I was supposed to be interviewing for the book,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, "This is your very last chance." And again, they made the threats on my family, and that was on the way home. Just a few days after that, I was run off the road. That was one of the accidents that I was talking about. But I
Mm-hmm.
was ran off the road, and I realized that they were real serious.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stopped. I did. I stopped for 8, almost 9 years. But when I look back on it, I may have stopped, but those, let's call them people, didn't stop. I still had things happen to me. I talk about it in the book, thinking I might be able to get on with my life normally, but
Hmm.
no, that's not happening. And even through that time of those 8 years, I can't tell you, I can only remember a couple, 3 days maybe. So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't
Hmm.
make sense. I mean, I had a really good job, and um, I can't remember much of anything.
Isn't that a
So
mess? And you know what's
it
interesting?
is
I can understand that because that's what happened to me in 2004. They pretty much ripped my life away, completely
right.
ripped my life away, zeroed it out. So, and this is all for their own personal agendas, which really pisses me off beyond words. But when I look and see that, I'm so glad that you put the book out, and I know also because you recently, started writing your book again, and you decided to get it published. But you also went through another what you thought was a directed energy attack that put you in the
Oh,
hospital during this, right?
well, actually, twice. 2 years ago, I started writing this book, and I ended up with a fall and a compound fracture to my hand, so I couldn't type. And I didn't really put it together. Okay. And I still don't know if that was just one of those freak accidents. I
Hmm.
was by myself at my house, and I was standing on a chair. So that's not smart. So I think that was a freak accident, um, and maybe not,
Hmm.
maybe, I don't know. Maybe I was told to get on that chair. Maybe those are things I don't know. But anyway, then right after I started feeling I was getting a cast. I had a cast on, and I was finally able to start typing again, and actually to get back to work because I was at the time I was working, so I could go back to work. And then I was hit on January 1st, 2015, with acute pain, and I thought it was a heart attack at first. The paramedics came in and said, "No, not a heart attack. Your EKG is good. You just must be having a panic attack." And I said, "Well, never had one of those before, but okay." And then they left. Long story short, they ended up coming back because the pain came back again, and this time it was not only in my heart, but it started going in my stomach, and I ended up in the hospital for 10 days with acute pancreatitis. They did every test imaginable. I mean, every test. I had so many scans and so many things that my hair was virtually falling out after I got out of the hospital because they
Hmm.
had so many damn tests, and they could never find anything wrong with me. My vitals were always good. I was in observation almost the whole time, and they were they could never find what it was. They said, "Well,
Hmm.
we can't find out what has caused it. There's nothing showing." So that I got out after the 10 days, and then I started writing the book just a few months ago, back again. And I picked it up. Of course, I had lots of the book, so I was putting it together and everything. And I was right to the day to get ready to send it out to the publisher. And I went to send it out to publisher. There was some problems with it, so they said, "No, you have to fix these." So I went and I thought, well, the next morning I'll get up in the morning and I'll fix it. Then I'll send it out tomorrow. Then I'll have it for my conference that I'm going to up in Arizona, and it'll be great. That next morning at 5 o'clock in the morning or something like that, I was woke up with the same kind of agonizing pain, and I ended up again in the hospital with pancreatitis. And again, wonderful blood. My everything worked out right. My they couldn't find where my pancreatitis what the problem was. The only thing, just like the other one, was my levels. I think it's what it's called. Is supposed to be 70, and they were 7,500 this time. I don't remember
Wow.
what they were last time. So that was their only way of telling that I had pancreatitis. Well, I don't believe it was pancreatitis. I believe what they do with their frequency weapons, that they can zero in on a point on you that might be a more sensitive area for you, and they can cause you to have problems in my pancreas,
Hmm. Yeah, targeted
or your
attack.
heart, or your
Yeah.
heart. And like I said, at first I felt like a heart attack. I was sure I was having a heart attack, and but nothing would show. So of course it's not going to show. And I know other targeted people who feel like they've had heart attacks, and it doesn't show as a heart attack, but then after so many bouts with this, they end up having some heart problems or having
Mhm.
valves that have damage to them because it's just so stressful and so traumatic. I realize also that back in I don't know 1990 something in the 90s, I have it in my book, but I think it was like 98 or something like that. I was or 96. I had the same thing happen to me with a heart attack again. But this time, um, it's a long story. They try it. They can read it in my book, but uh,
Mhm.
the people came and tried to get me away from friends because there was a heart attack, and they were pretending to be paramedics, and they weren't. So, they're
Right.
really, really sneaky,
That's an
sneaky
excellent
people.
story, by the way. We're going to save that for your book. I encourage everybody to purchase your book, and I know it's going to go live. You said about a day or two on Amazon. And
Uh huh.
also, once again, let's give them the title of the book again.
Okay, it's called Covert Abduction, Military Harassment, Surveillance, Interrogation, and Mind Control. And it's volume one, Autobiography of a Survivor.
Excellent. And you know what? I applaud you for surviving, as we all applaud each other for getting through a lot of these programs. And I
I
can
said,
tell
I
you, if you
applaud
don't think,
you too.
thank you. And you know what's interesting, Misha? If these SOBs don't owe you a lot of money, and myself and everybody else they've gone after for restitution for damages done, I don't know what to say anymore because I'm telling you, this has to there has to be accountability for this. This cannot be one of these things where they get a free pass and a free clearance to do everything they think they can get away with, and that's what's happening. They've been given immunity, and this has
Mhm.
got to stop. It's just got to stop. End of story.
It does. It does. And the only way it's going to stop is if more people come out. And that's why we write our books. That's why you wrote your book. That's why I write my book. We want people to be brave enough to come out because the more people come out, the more people talk about it, the more people write books, the more people get on radio shows. It cannot be denied then,
That's right. Well, it's a benchmark of truth. It's a time capsule, and that's the whole idea. We've watched. We've already. This is the beauty of what's going on in the timeline. We're watching mainstream media lie out their teeth all the time.
Right.
Propaganda 101. We have books and documentation of real life events that have happened to us that are trauma based that are out there as truth. That this stuff is going on, which is a big deal because you'll never hear it on mainstream, and not right now anyway.
No.
Eventually you might, but not right now. So yeah, I applaud you for putting that together, and I'm glad that you got through some of those storms. And I do know, and you know it as well, that they do have the directed energy weapons, the remote assassin programs that they can take a target down. They can give you cancer within a day. They can give you all kinds of diseases, but they can also turn it around to heal you. They've mastered frequencies, and they've mastered overlaying any type of a heterodyne or a brainwave template onto a target. You know, in the beginning here, you guys heard me kind of, I was having a hard time communicating. People don't realize that I get hit with technology a lot. And that's
Hmm.
neurolinguistics, by the way. So if you're wondering what happened, that was a neural glitch. It wasn't mine, it was incoming. Just so you know,
Hmm.
documentation live on air. That's and I noticed that you get that once in a while, Misha.
I do. I do.
Okay, and that's not
Absolutely.
you either. If I'm not mistaken, you just get hit once in a while. Am I correct, or is that a glitch?
Yeah, no, that's true, and a part of the program too. I have a programming that for my memory, for names, they've blocked me on a lot of different things like that, and
Hmm.
so I'll just be talking away, and I can see that name or that word in my head, and it won't come out.
Hmm.
So
Right. Well, that's
I-
called censorship. And that's another thing too. That's another thing they do, especially when I was hit with the artificial telepathy, because the whole thing about when they were in training me and communicating with me, they wanted to censor. They wanted to censor
uh-huh.
what I had to say. They didn't like me telling the truth. They didn't like me standing up and being counted. So they wanted to counter it with artificial telepathy and a feedback program designed to argue what I have to say, so they can censor or create some kind of an overlay on my communication. And this is what I mean by censoring a target or censoring a witness. Can you imagine people trying to communicate the truth in a witness stand? Forget it.
Yes, that's
So
very true.
yeah.
That's very, yeah. Actually, I was going to go on a witness stand once, and I decided that I couldn't do it. I didn't,
Well, I saw what the system did to me in 2006, and I saw my handler lie under oath and commit a lot of war crimes. Sat there, lied under oath. Yep. So,
and a
so much for that.
blind judge
Yeah, it
didn't see
was
any
all
of
paid
that.
off. It was the whole thing
Yeah.
was a
Oh,
setup.
well, that's the problem. There's so much paid off. And they could be paid off in many ways. They can be paid off from blackmailing, that they're blackmailed because they're into some really dark thing themselves,
Hmm.
or they can be financially paid off, or they can have a family member that is in jeopardy that they've got to protect. I mean, there's so many ways. I mean, if you've seen it on, I know this sounds kooky, but if you've seen it on the movies, it's really is happening. You see that in like Manchurian Candidate.
Hmm.
Oh, I wish I could remember. Here
Born
we go.
Identity is another one. He sits there and
Oh,
makes money
yes.
off of that character, but once again, it's based on real MKUltra people who have been programmed.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
and Brainstorm too. That was an initial early movie, of
Oh,
course. Remember
yes,
that one?
that was.
The
Yeah,
helmet.
oh, that's right.
So,
And there
yeah.
was there's just so many mind controls
Oh
about
yeah.
mind
There's a
control.
new one called Mannequin. There's a series out there called Mannequin. If anybody's ever watched it, where these girls are getting programmed and they go in and they get reprogrammed like every week with a different alter and personality. Does anybody watch these things? Do you
Oh
think
my
that's just
goodness.
Hollywood? Where do you think they're getting their
Oh,
data stream from?
yeah,
Hello,
exactly.
everybody. I hope you're
You
paying
know,
attention. Go ahead,
that
Misha.
that oh no, that's okay. That is crazy. That is like a show that it was like that they had on TV for a short time, and it was all about the models. I mean, it
Hmm.
was all about the sex slaves, and I can't remember the name of it. This is just driving me crazy. They're really pushing a lot
It's
of things
okay.
here.
I've been
But
getting hit like I'm going to tell everybody live. I've been getting hit with weird shit. Excuse my French for about a week and a half now,
yeah,
and
it's been a
they've been
very
trying really hard. And I'll tell you, if anything happens to me, you guys are hearing it live on air. Uh, that's a takedown. Just want you to know. So
I
go ahead, Misha.
agree. Same thing with me. It's a takedown.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's why I brought it out. That's why I wrote it in my book that they may can get away with a lot of things, but you know what? The truth shall set you free, as far as I'm concerned.
That's
And
right. They hate the truth. They
uh,
hate you standing up and being counted and telling the truth. You know why? Because they're all compulsive liars. And the people that do a lot of these projects are have alters out the wazoo, and they're all compromised. They're all brain hacked. They're complacent slaves, is what they are. And you and I are not slaves. We've
that's
been
right.
pulled in some nasty things, and I applaud you. Like I said, you've gotten through things. Between you, I think you're one of the oldest generation survivors who've actually made
Yeah,
it.
yeah. That is talking.
Yeah.
I little by little that I hear people that are in my same age group that are just getting to they're just waking up to the fact that they are monarchs or MK
Right.
Ultras. So, but there's not as many survivors out there of it. I'm sure there's some of the more famous ones. Um, Kathy O'Brien, uh, Bryce Taylor.
Yeah, the earlier ones. Well, and also, John Storm, who I've interviewed several times over,
John
is one of the
Storm.
original. He's one of the
Yes.
original ones.
Hmm.
So there's some ones out there that were the original. I don't know what you call them. They're not monarchs if they're guys, but
Oh, MK Ultra.
yeah,
The original MK Ultra, right? Yeah, Monarch is the program that they can use it in part of Project Talent or just the sex slave thing,
hmm,
and they use it with Montauk and they use it with the Monarchs, and the
makes
Monarchs, of
sense.
course, are the young boys. And in fact, in San Francisco, not San Francisco, in Seattle, I experienced, if anybody, another show they should see is Eyes Wide Shut. If that isn't the most damn truth there ever had, the only thing they changed on it, I mean, Cooper was right on. The
Hmm.
only thing they changed on it, it wasn't prostitutes. It was mind controlled young women and young boys, and they were the party favors. And we were taken, and that was the word that we were used. And since then, I've heard this term come out with some other people. And I'm going to have a guy in a week or so, not this week, but next week on my show, who has also is a Montauk boy and
Hmm.
also is what I think, the secret space program. So those go in together too. Again, he's part of that second generation where they did some hands-on and they
Hmm.
did some of the psychotronic, I know
Right.
my terminology is not exactly that's why I love to have you come to my groups because you help me with all of the technical words and everything that I'm lacking on this new uh, uh, projects and everything that are going
Yeah,
on. The
I had to decode it,
educating.
so I had no choice but to roll up my sleeves and get involved in it. And then, of course, I did talk to Preston Nichols. I think I've told you that before. I'm very familiar with what he's been up to, And also, I never got to meet Al Bielek, but I was in communication with somebody who supposedly was a clone, had a cloned template of a Montauk boy, and he was into forced suicide. They forced him into a suicide program. This is what I mean by execution of targets. When they decide that you're no longer an asset or you're becoming dangerous to them, they're going to try to take you down, just so everybody knows. And we saw Max Spears go down.
Yes, we did.
But he's not, I mean, think of how many have been gone. I can't even count anymore. I try to keep a list, but this is
Uh-huh.
murder. I mean, this is covert murder. Okay, you're not dealing with just regular people passing away or committing suicide. These things are murder. This is what we call homicide done by remote and programming, and
Yeah.
this is a huge deal. And that the alphabet agencies understand this technology. They understand it because I have talked to people who are ex-feds, ex-FBI, who understand very clearly what psychotronic programming is and what remote harassment is and what synthetic telepathy entails and everything else. So don't sit there and tell me that people are having voices in their head when we understand a transmission and a signal is impacting their brain and causing them to have a schism, and somebody's laughing from a control room somewhere. This is what's pissing me off, folks. People need to get serious about this and roll up their sleeves. And this is one of the reasons also, and I'll say it right on air, I've contacted the White House, and I'm very much adamant about contacting our president and talking about this so he can address it and start really draining the swamp, starting with these FSOBs who have been pulling this crap for I don't know how many decades.
Amen. That's great.
That's right.
And and everyone should get as hostile and up in the arms as we do, because that's the only thing that's going to change. We're the only ones who are going to change it. It's
Right.
not gonna change on its own, and they'll just keep going more and more covert with their abilities and with their mind control and their psychotronic warfare and their no kill slow kill. It's not really no
It's a
kill.
slow
It's
kill.
slow kill.
Yeah.
It's slow kill. And I know so many people who've lost loved ones in this slow kill method where they want one or the other of them to get out of the field, and so they hit their loved one, and the loved one ends up dying some horrible slow death.
That's right.
And
Yep.
there's several people now. There's just so many people I know that
I
have
know who you're
been
talking
taken
about,
out.
by the way, Misha. We
Yeah.
won't mention them on air, but I understand who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That is very true. Yep.
Hmm. And
It's not acceptable. And the reason they do it? Get this, because they can. That's why. They're so
mhm.
arrogant. They're so confident. They'll sit there and they'll try to destroy everybody's life because they have a pen, they have an access, and they have a clearance, and they think they can get away with just ruining your life. And
Mhm.
I'll tell you what, and that's interesting because the people that they go after, from my research, are not criminals. They're not people that are bad. They're actually model citizens, if you ask me. They go after really good people who are talented or starseed consciousness evolved. Those really advanced people. That's
They
what
do.
I've noticed. They go after
I
people that they think they can use as an asset.
Yeah, I agree. They absolutely go after. They may use some of the other ones for um, maybe patsies or something like that.
Mhm.
But when we're talking about who they're going after, and they're targeting, and they're doing all these different things to, it is people that are really very spiritual. They're in fact, I have several people that say, "Oh, no, don't ever talk about spirituality or talk about it, because they'll come after you." Well, you cannot be afraid to live that way.
That's right. They don't want you
We
raising your vibration and
No, they
expanding into
don't.
your multidimensional design work, which actually removes you from this veil of confusion where everything is literally censored and you're living in the false matrix. Yeah, that's the whole idea. Well, they hated the idea that I had a Merkaba signal. That was actually a very powerful signal that was merged with what we call the full light universe. I know that sounds esoteric, but we're dealing with alchemy here, and that's a
Uh-huh.
signal that they tracked and used and actually attacked with a scalar wave.
Oh
You know,
my.
and we both, it's interesting. I have my documentary DVD, Either Remote Black Operations and Aries Bound 52. Well, that's the book, but then I have Either Remote, A Disclosure and Code for Technology. And Steve Colburn measured my signals, and those signals are showing. Okay, this isn't a game, people. And I'll tell you what, Misha, did you not just meet with Steve Colburn and you also had a scan done?
Oh, yeah, I did. I did. And interesting, there was a signal coming from part of my body that
That's right.
he said it's low, but you're not
It's not
supposed to
supposed to be
have
there.
be there. No, you're not supposed to be there.
Okay.
And of course, I really thought that I have had, and I know I haven't had ET contacts for a long time, but I did have some kind of contact and recently, and it showed up in the scans, and also the UV
Hmm.
HV, I think it's called.
Yeah, the ultraviolet light he does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And also, they call it kind of like a tag and release program where they'll tag you. And of course, that's part of their project. But the tagging system that they use is basically it's a frequency based signal so that they can literally interconnect onto you whenever they choose to. And some people like myself, I haven't been able to shake that signal. I don't think it's half as strong as it used to be back in 2004, but
Mhm.
it's there,
Mhm.
and that's not part of me. Okay. But it's
No.
actually the problem that I'm running into is that you're dealing with things that are not part of us, that are not coming from an off-world species, but are coming from covert intelligence, so they can keep
Right.
track of us and do whatever they want to do, whether it's to trying to transmit a signal to put us in a coma or give us an aneurysm, or I have to look at these things like these are death weapons, okay?
Mhm.
And they're not using them for the highest good. If they were using them for the highest good, I'd be right there with them saying, hey, I love this technology. I do think synthetic telepathy is a really cool thing. But if they're
Mhm.
not using it correctly, they're using it to harm, control, manipulate, brainwash, and train. And if you don't comply, they're going to take you down and murder you. So how is
Right.
that productive?
Right.
You
That's
know?
exactly right.
It just makes me angry, Misha. And then, knowing you, because you work with the star seeds a lot, you understand they're naturally telepathic. Well, the thing with this
Mhm.
technology is these people in these black technologies departments get their advancements because they're basically hijacking real psychics, real people with real abilities. They're taking templates and cloning that information into an artificial intelligence communication system. Then they're utilizing it and selling the templates to DARPA, to who else? Google. Let's go over
Huh?
to Zuckerberg's house. These people are making a ton of money on us.
Wow, couldn't said it better.
It just pisses
That's
me off.
exactly right. Yes.
It really does. Don't get me started. I know I'm supposed to be talking to you and interviewing you, but when we get together, I start to.
I know we do.
But it's
We do. We
important
kind
that
of.
we talk about a lot of this stuff because it's a different language to some people. They have no idea. You are such a beautiful soul and a beautiful person, and I've had the privilege to connect with you and really get to know you. And it's interesting because most people have no idea the kind of crap you've been through, the abuse you've been through, and yet you still shine. You're still helping others. You're still out there trying to do the best you can as a good being. And it's really something I applaud because I see a lot of people complaining about nonsense from day to day, and they
Uh,
have no idea the bigger scenery.
yeah, that's true. But I just kind of feel what doesn't kill you makes you stronger,
Yep.
and I am very strong, and
Yeah, you
I
are.
believe that my mission is just beginning, and the most important part of it is other people waking up and helping them realize who they are and what their abilities are, and not to and if they are being attacked, how to get out of that.
Right.
Because right now you and I have been working on this a lot, and I actually have a couple of things I want to talk to you about that some other wonderful people have up with.
Hmm.
I mean, we can use some of our great abilities and our psychic abilities and our connections to our galactic family to make things, to invent things that can help people.
Hmm.
And I
I agree.
see that happening. I see that happening
It
in more
is.
people,
And
and I
we
think
can talk about that for sure. You know what I was going to say also, there are plenty of scientists out there I've talked to. I've interviewed quite a few that I know have access to things.
Mhm,
And I find it shameful. I'm not going to mention who these people are. That they're
mhm,
sitting there with their clearances and they're not willing to do anything. They want to make money. They want to write books. They'll only go like they only get their feet wet a little bit. They don't want to dive into the deep waters, but they could easily turn this around overnight. They could have changed it for the better. They could have taken that technology and turned it around so that people are not being targeted with transmissions and assaults every day. That everything that's happened to us shouldn't have happened to begin with. Nobody should have had access to us like that. Nobody.
right.
So, but there's always a solution to the equation, Misha. I know that. I'm very optimistic on that level too, and I also understand it's frequency based, so that's how you combat it. And you're right. You have some really good information on your website about psychic protection, psychic shielding, and of course,
Mhm.
it starts with the energy. It starts with your consciousness. It starts with you taking your power back.
It does. It
And you
does.
do that by shielding your spiritual design work and also going through your psyche and shadowing yourself and seeing what's in there that doesn't belong in part insofar as what's part of your personality, what's not. That's the way
Mhm,
I do it anyway.
mhm,
But
mhm.
I was lucky enough that they hit me at 40 in the illusion of, right? I didn't get hit as a child with this program. Thank goodness, because had they nailed me with that, Misha, I wouldn't have made it. I will tell you right now, if I was a little girl and that son of a SOB pulled me into that program, I would have been dead. I would have been
Yeah.
in an altar forever. I would have been a complete monarch.
Yeah, it's hard, and it's taken a lot of years, a lot of things, a lot of therapy. Uh, one of the biggest things I wouldn't do, and I've just been so mortally against it, is drugs.
Hmm.
And so I did it one time in my life for a very short time, take a oh God, I can't even think what it is, but it was supposed to, just for be calming you down, that type of thing. And and that was it. Otherwise, I've been able to work with a lot. I've done a lot of work, regressions, a lot of teaching of the inner Christ, and self mastery classes, and all of these things, because every single one of these things help. Will wake you up a little more, a little more, a little more, and you start realizing, that we are just really amazing spiritual beings having this human life, and no matter what we've gone through in our life, we we have the power to
Absolutely.
grow.
And exactly. And with that being said, we're going to have for a break, everybody. Please stay tuned. You're listening to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm your host, Solaris BlueRaven. My wonderful guest tonight is Miesha Johnston. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.